Dr. Hegland and I are going to kind of give an overview of the summer research program that we host at the C of I. And then we're going to talk about the other opportunities off campus. And so the hope is that you will come away from this knowing all the opportunities that are out there for doing summer internships related to research, either in the natural sciences or mathematics or engineering. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And to also give you a sense of the time frame that you need to be aware of in order to get your application in on time for the job that you want to do. The general idea is it's going to be a lot sooner than you probably think if you've never done this before. So is Sarah here? Yeah, so we're going to start by talking about the research program that we host at the College of Idaho in the summers. We've got a bunch of faculty who have showed up today that are going to answer questions at the end about their specific research and kind of advertise for their research programs. Talk about the dates, the timelines, the salaries, all of that, and then also we'll sprinkle in a little bit of the other stuff you could be applying for. If you have questions at any time, just shout them out. So this is meant to be for you. So here in the summer we have several faculty in Boone doing research over the summer full-time with their students. I think we had 12 faculty and 26 students this summer that were here for 10 weeks or close to it. A majority of the funding for our summer research program comes from a grant called Embree, which Dr. Hegland's going to talk about in more detail here in a minute. And then the Murdoch Trust has given us a large grant for over 2 years now to fund summer research. There are other people on campus doing research that's funded in other ways too. So we have donations and gifts. We have the National Science Foundation, individual awards to NSF, NASA. Do we have an NIH grant? What's John under?
I think he's on
NIH, so I should have NIH under here too. So we also have faculty that are funding themselves through independent grants in this bin. One of them sitting right in front of me. So. All right, so with that in mind, any questions so far? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hegland to talk about Embree.
Hi, everybody, and if you want, feel free to step out and get more pizza. There's plenty.
Pizza.
So, you cannot leave without eating at least 3 pieces each, so get working on it. So I'm Dr. Sarah Hegland. I'm in the biology department for those of you that don't know me. So I'm teaching Bio 201 right now, and then in the spring I teach cell biology. And I am the program leader for a grant that we have through the National Institutes of Health here at the College of Idaho. So it stands for, it's called NIH Embree. So it's the National Institute of Health IDEA, which is the Institutional Development Award Networks of Biomedical Research Excellence, so an acronym within an acronym. But the take-home message here is this is a grant program that we've had for over 15 years that funds biomedical research specifically. So we are now in what's called Embree 4. This is our 4th round of funding, and every round is for 5 years. So this has been, on our campus, over $6 million that have come to the College of Idaho for biomedical research. So Embree 4 collectively is a $17 million grant for the state of Idaho. So there's 11 institutions that are involved in this program, us being one of them. And the goal is to increase biomedical research capacity in the state of Idaho. So the money that comes onto our campus here over 5 years is about $750,000. So not a small chunk of change. And what I'm here to talk to you guys about is our summer research program through Embree. So this is a 10-week program. Okay, so it has to be 10 weeks. It's 40 hours a week, so this would be your job during the summer, where you would conduct research in one of the faculty's labs on campus, and you would also participate in weekly professional development programming that we have during the summer. And then at the end of your 10 weeks, you present your summer research at the annual Embree conference, which is hosted up in Moscow, and this year it's July 27th through the 29th. Okay, so currently We have 3 Embree labs funded for this next summer. So, and that changes over the years, so you have to kind of pay attention if you're interested in this program as to who's going to be funded. So for this coming summer, it's 3 biology labs. It's Dr. Luke Daniels, who does mostly neurobiology type work. And then Dr. Tom Pirtle, who is here today, so I'm going to let him talk a little bit about his lab at the end. And then Dr. Mark Gunderson, who looks at environmental contaminants and how they relate to oxidative stress in crayfish. So these 2 labs on the top are mostly bench work lab, and Dr. Gunderson combines some field work, collecting crayfish, with bench work in the lab. So these are the 3 people, if you're interested in the Embree program, that you would need to talk to. Because if you want to apply for an Embree Fellows program here, the first step you need to do is you need to talk to one of these 3 mentors, because part of the application process is you're going to have to click on that one of these mentors has agreed to support your application. This does not mean that you will be awarded a fellowship. It's just that they have agreed to at least review your application. Okay? So you got to get on that now, because the deadline for the Embree Summers program is very early compared to any other fellowship program. It's coming up on November 1st. Most programs are January, February, not Embree. It's November 1st. So you talk to one of the 3 people. They say, yeah, sure, apply. I would love to support your application. Then you apply, and we'll have this PowerPoint available for you guys. You'll apply to this web link, and it's basically some information about yourself, fill out a few personal essays, why do you want to get involved in biomedical research, and some letters of recommendation. So you don't actually have to write a research statement for this particular program. You just have to write about why you value the opportunity to get involved in research. How will this help you decide on your future career path? Okay? Awards are notified mid-December, and then a summer research plan is due in March. And that summer research plan, once you've been awarded the fellowship, you work with your mentor, and the mentor actually submits it. Okay? So if you are awarded an Embree Summer Fellowship, there will be 6 of these awarded on our campus this summer. You will receive a $6,000 summer stipend for 10 weeks, 40 hours a week. Your start date is May 20th, and you end presenting your work at the conference on July 29th. So that's Embree on our campus. So do any of you guys have any questions that I can field right now about any of that stuff?
So where can we contact the mentors to
They're in the so you can email them, or you can stop by the biology department.
Okay.
But Tom, what's best to get a hold of you if someone's interested?
You can talk to me after the meeting today.
You could talk to him after the
Perfect.
meeting
Okay.
today while having a piece of pizza.
Okay. That's good.
Other questions? Yeah. You are not. For the Embree program, if you are graduating either December or at the end of this year, you are not eligible. You have to be a current student. Yes. Yes, Dr. Stein.
Do you have to be a biomed major to be eligible for this?
Nope.
Would you recommend it for someone who's not even a bio minor, or like because of the peak, just being interested in it? could you still apply?
You could still apply. That is a question that I would ask one of the mentors that you're interested in working in their lab, because there's going to be a certain level of biology, science that they're going to want you to have in order to be successful completing the 10-week program.
So previous bio courses that have been taken here at the school would work towards that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And when I'm not taking students through the Embree program this summer, but in the past I have, and I've taken freshmen all the way to juniors. So if you're a freshman and you're thinking, oh, you know, I've only taken Bio 201, I don't think I'll be very competitive for the Embree program. Think again. You very well may be. Because part of getting you guys into the lab, we could do that through the Embree program, and then you'll become more competitive for some of these national fellowships where they're going to want to see some more research experience. So. All right. Anyone else?
I got a question, Scott.
Yeah, Chris.
So does the Embree program work the same at the other institutions in terms of stipend, timing? It's all the same?
My gosh, Chris, it's almost as if you saw the next slide.
Oh.
So the question is about other Embree programs. So states that are awarded an Embree grant are states that traditionally do not receive a lot of NIH funding. So that would be Idaho, that would be Montana, Nevada, Wyoming, Hawaii, some other ones. But being from Idaho, you are eligible to apply for some other Embree summer programs. In particular, the Montana Summer Embree program. It's modeled similar to our program, that it's a 10-week research experience. It's in Bozeman. The summer stipend, though, is less. It's $4,600 through their program. And their deadline is not posted yet, but it's usually about mid-February. So we did have one C of I student do the Montana program last summer. They do save a couple seats in their program for students outside of Montana. And the same goes for Nevada, where you can be either in Reno or Las Vegas. Very comparable. It's a $6,000 stipend. It's 10 weeks biomedical research with a deadline in February. So those are opportunities that you could look to. If you're from Montana or you're from Nevada, maybe these programs are of interest to you. Okay. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about, I think,
I just put that there to cover everything. Give it one more.
I'm doing slides that Katie has made. So these are partially. I made part, she made part.
Yeah, well, in the group work
using-
aspect, I totally plagiarized your slides, so some of them make sense.
That's okay. That's okay. If I say you can do that, then it's okay, right?
Is that how it works?
That's how it works. So there's what are called national REUs. So REU stands for Research Experience for Undergraduates. So this program is through the National Science Foundation. Embree is through the National Institutes of Health. So they're a little bit different. So the National Science Foundation will fund biological research beyond biomedical. So it might be botanical research, it might be an ecology program. And there are, in biology, 145 different REU sites at universities across the nation. And in fact, Boise State has an REU for the Raptors program. So if that's something that you're interested in. So this is funding for all sorts of areas in biology, and you're going to talk about physics and chemistry. So the key thing with the REU program, though, is you have to be a citizen of the United States or a permanent resident. That is not the case for the Embree program. So we've had several international students be part of the Embree program. REUs are different. You have to be a citizen or have permanent residency in the United States. The eligibility requirements varies depending on the REU site, and typical deadlines are anywhere from January to the end of February. So this is a link for all 45 that you could go to, and let's see, is it live? I don't know. And you can check it out and see what interests you. Maybe, I don't know, I want to go to Boston College. Oh, and do physics, Katie. So click on that and you can find out all the information. I will tell you, you have to start thinking about this now. These programs take time to apply, especially if you're going to apply to several of them. So you have to put the time in. You're going to have letters of recommendation. So you need to have some faculty that know you fairly well that can write a letter for you. And you don't just dump that at them, a week before. We need time to write quality, glowing letters for you. So if you're interested in these types of opportunities, you need to be starting to think about it now. And don't think, I'm not competitive. There's no way I can get one of these. Don't go in with that attitude. You never know. You really don't. So I think that's all. I don't even know. What is the next slide?
It's the physics RU.
Okay.
Or I'll keep going.
So, so that's all I have to say for biology, and I'll stick around afterwards. So if you have any questions and you want to talk to me afterwards, I will be here. So, Katie.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so I'm just going to pick up right where Dr. Hagelin ended and talk a little bit more about just the general RU, like the clearinghouse for RU. So Dr. Hagelin showed the subpage under biology, but if you go to this link here, it'll actually take you one step above it on their website, and it'll show it by field. And so you can do things like astronomical sciences, that's astronomy, atmospheric, so this is like atmospheric, climate change, geosat sort of stuff, chemistry, computer science, cyber infrastructure. Some of these get really specific, polar, so if you want to go to the South Pole and do research there, there's your RU. Ocean sciences, so there's a little bit of everything, or there's a little bit of something for everyone, including engineering, mathematical sciences. So if you are interested in a research topic that we don't have here at the College of Idaho, what I would suggest doing is consider doing research with one of us anyways, even if it's just an independent study, to get experience, to make yourself more competitive for the RUs. RUs are pretty competitive, and what I learned from applying to them, the cooler they sound, the harder they are to get into. And so if you want to go be at a splashy telescope on an island, you're going to need like research experience probably, or know somebody pretty important to get that job. And so if you're interested, start early. My advice here would be make a spreadsheet, apply to, try and not more than 10 sort of thing. But if you're asking for letters of recommendation and applications to like 10 different summer programs, you're going to want to make an application that is specific to each program. It's going to take time. And so 10 is a high end. Like, don't apply to all of them using the same application because you won't be competitive. Letters of recommendation, I like 6 weeks lead time. And so 6 weeks, 2 weeks is like the limit, the bare, like that's last minute. Like a week before is just not enough time to get a letter. So make sure you are giving yourself enough time to get a letter of recommendation because all of these will need probably at least 2. Yeah.
So you just answered it. So at least 2 letters of recs.
Yeah, so with all of these, so the way the NSF, so the way the RU program works is that the National Science Foundation has a pot of money that they set aside to fund RUs, and then individual institutions apply for an RU grant to pay for students to be at their institution. So like the University of Michigan would write and say, we want to have 6 students. And then they set the rules for their RU. So every RU is going to have a slightly different application process. So it's usually 2 or 3 letters of recommendation. The deadline is usually January to February, but the reason we say usually is because every individual site that is hosting an RU sets their own rules. Great question. Yeah?
When you were saying you had to be a citizen, does it apply just for funds or in
Yeah, so actually that's a great point. I wanted to mention that. This is again with the NSF funds the REU programs. And so part of their funding rules is that they will only pay salary for US citizens, so if you are getting money through the REU specifically, there's limitations. But I would highly suggest that you read the call for applications on the individual websites, because like when I did an REU, I went to the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in New Mexico. And they had the students that were funded under their REU grant, but there were also people there that were getting their own research grants that were working as part of the REU program. And so they were paying from other pots of money. So they were hiring Canadian, they were hiring people from not the US, and they were hiring people that had just graduated. And so there are like REUs, you can only do an REU while you're currently enrolled, so you can't do it after graduation. But if these look interesting to you, read deeper, because a lot of these have money available and they'll encourage non-citizens, like they'll encourage you to apply, but you have to read the websites. But I wouldn't say don't look at the REUs at all, because a lot of these places are hosting a summer program and you would apply the same way. If you have questions, and there are, like, if you're interested in physics internships and you keep running into a wall with citizenship, come talk to me, because there are, I've seen clearinghouses like lists of places where they host summer internships that citizenship is not an issue. So I didn't find it before this talk, but I know it's out there and I can help match students if that's a thing that you want. Other questions? And then the be open-minded part, keep in mind that your plan, whatever you do research in after your sophomore year, like that's not probably going to be, this is coming from someone who's still doing the thing I did when I was 19, but it's probably not going to be the thing that you wind up doing for 20 years. So if, I would say apply broadly, apply to things that maybe aren't like the specific thing you want to do for your PhD someday or whatever it is that you want to do. The goal is to get experience, to explore, to figure out if you like doing this, to get good letters of recommendation. So be open-minded in what you would apply to. Other places to look besides the REU, NASA funds internships for physicists, for astronomers. They actually, I think, have things for like mathematicians. So the SULI website, or sorry, the NASA website is here. Their internship deadline is March 8th, so mid-March. The national labs, like Los Alamos National Lab, what are the other ones that are really close? I'm blanking on them. Where does Gibb do his research? What's that? PNL, yeah, Pacific Northwest Laboratory. So all of those are through the SULI website, which is here. This one, both of these I think also have citizenship guidelines, but I would just read the instructions. They're a little bit more strict at the national labs about citizenship. So these have lists of how to apply. All the deadlines are early spring, March-ish, February-ish. Okay, so that's it on the off-campus stuff. Now I'm going to come back to on-campus. Any questions before I do that? Yeah?
It's related to the slides. There are a lot of links, and I was just wondering if you can email them.
Absolutely, yeah. So where's the best place to put them? I'll put them on the math physics colloquium. He wanted to know where he can get the slides.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can put them on the colloquium.
We'll put them on the colloquium web pages for biology and physics, and we could also P drive. Does that work? Actually, they're currently on the P drive, so I can just leave them there and show you how to find them. Does that work? Yeah. So we'll put them on if you're enrolled in one of the classes for credit that's taking this, we'll put them on the class website through Canvas, but they're also on the P drive. Before I forget, Sarah, is it okay if I just show them how to get to this? Yeah. I'm going to delete that. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. So if you go to the public drive, NSM Colloquium, it's right here. And I'm not going to bother dumping it to PDF, so please don't modify it. Have good P drive behavior. Okay, so the Murdoch Trust has been very good to us in the last couple of years. Last year, they gave us a grant. So around spring of last year, we found out that they were going to give us about $187,500 to fund undergraduate student research. And so this money is being used to fund research teams during the summer. Last year we had 5 faculty and 12 students that were on Murdoch dollars. So this is a pretty big program. The way this works is that we were given the big institutional grant Faculty members then have to apply for a subaward under that grant, and so your faculty members develop the research program, and they would apply to fund 2 research positions, 3 research positions. So they are kind of developing their summer research goals, and they apply for the money and then get the grant internally. For the students that are hired using that money, there's kind of the similar expectations to the Embree Fellows. And so expectation of engagement in the on-campus summer programmatic, so all the professional development, and participation in the Murdoch Research Conference or a similar off-campus conference. And so if you are funded under the Murdoch grant, the idea is that you would take that work and present it off-campus at a conference in the following year. Very similar expectations to Murdoch. To Embree. This is the slide I just stole from Sarah. So your job, just like Embree, research and professional development. It's a 10-week research program, 40 hours a week. And the idea is that you would present a poster at the end of it. Some of the groups that were funded last summer, so next summer, the faculty haven't applied for money for next summer, so this is last summer, but I imagine some of these folks will probably be looking for students again. I'm funded under Murdoch, Anna Himmler, Dr. Chris Walser, Caleb Tormey, Dr. Truxa, and then Carolyn Databay and John Thurston also have had some partial funding in their labs through the Murdoch funds. So impacted a lot of different research groups. So these are folks who are on campus this summer doing research using Murdoch money. To apply for these positions, the good news is that we don't have a alarmingly soon deadline. This is more online with the REU deadlines. And so the faculty will be asked to apply for funding in the winter, meaning they'll know how many students they can hire by early spring. And so expect a call for applications for Murdoch-funded research programs on campus in March. And then the deadline to apply would be mid-March. You would have a hiring notification by late March. So this is a lot more in time, like this is the similar timeline to the REU, so you'd be finding out around the same time as other opportunities. So stay tuned. Again, if you're interested in working with people who have done Murdoch research, the sooner you talk to them, even if you talk to them before the call for application, it's still a good thing because you would apply to work with the specific group that you want to work. And so there would be a big call for applications with a comparable deadline, but I am going to make the ultimate decision on the students that I hire. Dr. Tormey would make the ultimate decision on the students he hires. And so the people you want to make a good impression on are the people that you would work for. I'm not going to hire the students for Dr. Tormey's lab.
Why not?
What could go wrong? So the Murdoch fund is, so there is, you'll notice a payment discrepancy between the Murdoch and the Embree, and that's just how the grants, that's what the grant set up. So it's not like we're trying to punish anybody. We're working in the constraints of the money we can get. So it's $4,000 for a summer stipend, 10 weeks through Murdoch. The start dates are not as strict because those are a little bit more set by the faculty members, that we don't have the external Embree body telling us when our dates will be. So the individual faculty members are allowed to kind of move those dates a little bit, but we try and stick to this 10-week period as closely as possible so that the summer programming is available for all of the students at the same time. There's one more opportunity I want to mention because Dr. Dahl's not here in the physics department. So if you are interested in doing research in the physics department starting like nowish, Dr. Dahl has a call for applications out for academic year internships. So this would be independent study credit for the spring, and it would start in January. Every year for the last couple years, we've been able to send 2 or 3, sometimes I think we've sent as many as 5 students down to New Mexico to work at a friend of the college, Dr. Joe Dagland, built himself a telescope and loves training students on how to use it. And so every winter we send a couple students down to take observations with Dr. Dagland. You would get trained up here. If you have questions, you can ask Micah Woodard in the back about it because she's worked on this program for a couple years. We're going to lose her to engineering school and graduation. But so if you are interested in doing this, please look around these posters. This is tiny print, but these are posters printed and they're hanging on the doors on the first floor here. The deadline for that one is coming up. It's October 25th. You would be traveling on January 29th, so over the break between winter term and spring semester starting. The research, like the analysis, would continue into the spring with the expectation of an SRC poster. And if you did well and made a good impression and enjoyed the work, there would probably be opportunity for summer employment afterwards to continue the project, which is what Micah did. So I just wanted to make that plug for Jim's research program. So if you have questions about that specifically, I can try and answer them too. And I think that's all I have on that. So do we want to turn it over to, do you guys all want to take a minute to talk about your research labs? All right. Well, I can start. So we'll talk about we'll talk about our research program specifically in case you're curious about what we do. I'm Dr. Devine. I'm in physics. I do star formation. I use a lot of big data sets at this point. So my students wind up doing a lot of computer programming, primarily in Python. We access archival data sets and citizen science results, and then kind of synthesize those results to do some like big projects currently. We've also in the past gotten our own observations using the Green Bank Telescope, which is a radio telescope in West Virginia. So that's the work that I am currently doing. So if you are interested in computer programming, you like doing CS, but you also think that astrophysics might be fun, talk to me.
Hi, so I'm Carolyn Databay. I am the biochemist in the chemistry department, and I have a research program through the NSF. So it's independent, comes to us from a source. I am in a consortium with other universities. Dr. Himmler is also in this consortium. So we work with Boise State, University of Nevada, Reno, and the University of Wyoming. And what we do is, it's a field called chemical ecology. So I'm a biochemist, so I like both chemistry and biology. And what you do in chemical ecology is you study the interactions between plants and animals out there in the environment in an ecological context, only you're studying what happens at the chemical level. So what we do in particular is that we look at sagebrush, because sagebrush is like this chemical arms factory living out there in the desert. It's a super nutritious plant, and nothing can eat it because of its defensive chemistry, except a couple of things. Sage grouse, pygmy rabbits, cutest animal ever, pronghorn antelope. So what we're studying at the chemical level is how can some of those animals, how can they actually eat this toxic plant and survive? It's because they have really good enzymes in their liver, and other animals have to avoid it. So if you're interested in chemistry, kind of at this ecological context, I have research opportunities, one or two. Dr. Himmler has some also. She'll talk to you. Our format is a little bit like the Murdoch. You work along the same time frame, the end of May till the end of July. Our research stipends are $5,000. That's full-time for research and professional development. Application would be probably along the lines of January or February. And students that have done research for me, I usually take them to the meeting, the national meeting of the American Chemical Society, or sometimes this year for the first time we took them to the Wildlife Society national meeting. So if you have any questions, just come by my office. I'd love to talk to you about it, and I definitely need some labor this summer.
Okay. So I spoke last week, so maybe some of you remember. I'm a physical chemist, and I don't know, specialize, but and again, expertise sort of in polymer physics and liquid state theory. So much like Dr. Devine, I mostly write a lot of software. So my students have helped me write not such crappy software, because I'm not a great computer scientist. Yeah, so that's mostly the work would be not any chemistry at all. It would be pretty much all computer science and writing software, so yeah.
Me again. So Sarah Heglin in biology. So I am a cellular toxicologist, and so my current research interest is in vaping and looking at the toxicity of electronic cigarettes and Juul products in a bone model, and how that relates to bone disease. So everything that I do is in vitro. So if you like little things, cells, microscopy work, then you might be interested in my lab and what we do. So if you are, just shoot me an email or stop by my office, and we can talk about vaping. So, just talk. Yeah, we're not going to do it.
I'm Chris Walser. I teach in biology. I teach the Biology 203 class and stream ecology. I also partner with Dr. Himmler, and we teach the off-campus field biology courses. So I'm a stream ecologist, and I specialize in fish. And this past summer, I had 3 students working with me looking at the impacts of climate change on red band trout in Dry Creek, which is just basically up the road from here. But I've been studying this population of trout for probably 6 years now, and we've been looking at, really basic, trying to answer basic questions about their biology, their movement, what they eat, how they respond to changing stream flows, and their interactions with their predators and with their prey. So if you're interested in stream ecology, if you're interested in fish, if you like field work, most of my work is spent in the field. We do some lab work, but it's a lot of being outside, walking through streams, seeing lots of great things. So come talk to me if you're interested in that kind of work.
Hi everybody, I'm Anna Himmler. I teach in the Intro Bio series as well. So for those of you that just started or are in 201 now, you will have Dr. Gunnarsson or myself for 202, and then Dr. Walser will be joining us in the labs. So my research, as Dr. Databay mentioned, is on interactions between 3 different levels of organisms. So I studied the bacteria that lives in the insect that lives on the sagebrush. And then there's lots of things that branch out from there. So that's the main area of research. Another research program that I'm interested in starting is looking at local pollinators and some of their internal bacteria and how they use local floral resources, so very different. The main techniques that we use are some field work, and we have some data to start some experiments with bugs on plants, but also molecular genetics, which is fancy, but what we do is, sounds fancy, but what we do is a lot of PCR, and we teach you how to do all those things. So the important part of this is you don't have to have prior experience, right? That's part of what this is all for, is to get you that first hands-on experience. And then you build from there, whether it's with any of us or at another institution. That's the goal, is to get you involved. So I will hopefully be hiring at least 2 people for next summer. Again, this is through the NSF and then also possibly the Murdoch. So depending on the amount of funds that we're awarded when we compete for that, maybe more. 3 would be great. Same program, 10 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. And we have had people who have done this just recently last summer. So if you're interested in this kind of thing and just want to know more about it, you can come talk to me, but I can also put you in touch with my prior students who did this. So one of them was a rising sophomore, right? So she talked to me after her first year. And the other was a rising junior. So you really don't have to be, in fact, we prefer to get you now. So we have some time with you to get you a lot of training and expertise before you move on. So Anna Himmler, biology, I teach lots of things. I can list those. I'm sure I'll see you all at some point. Our offices are upstairs, right? So biology and chemistry are upstairs, and math, physics, comp sci is down here. So most of them know that, but just in case you don't know where to find us. Yeah, so any questions, let me know.
All right, we're not done yet.
Wait, we have time.
We got time. Okay.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am Professor Pirtle, and I teach in the biology department. I teach anatomy and physiology, pathobiology, developmental biology. I also teach for the PA program, the first semester anatomy and histology, and my research uses chick embryos to understand aspects of development and how chemicals modify development in various aspects of the anatomy. So this past couple years, been looking at bone development. Last year, looked at heart development. This year, planning on looking at the nervous system. We exposed chick embryos to e-cigarette juice to determine the effects of those chemicals on bone. But this year, I'm thinking about answering some more basic questions in terms of biology and how nitric oxide affects the development of the spinal cord in developing chick embryos. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, come see me. My office is in Boone 222. Thank you.
All right. So we've got 15 minutes. You've got a lot of faculty members here, so I was hoping we could just take advantage of, like, what other questions do you guys have for us about the research program, about how to apply well, whatever you want to know, now is your chance. Yeah.
You might not have the answer to this, but with all of them, is there a chance for on-campus housing during that time still?
That is a great question. Our students, some of them were on campus last summer, but I do not know how. Micah, do you know how that worked out? I'm trying to think, is there anybody in here that was arranging it? You got to live in ketchup and mustard? But there were people in? Yeah.
And they had to
pay. They had to pay. Maureen, did you do it?
Yeah, I did. So you had to, well, there were two ways to do it. Either you could pay rent directly, and I think it was like $400 a month, or what I did, which is kind of unconventional, but I worked for the school as well in their summer program, and so that way I basically worked for my housing, and then I worked in the lab as well.
So options,
So
but they have some of the buildings open for
they have,
yeah.
they have the village on.
Yeah.
For that. And you have to let Jen also know that.
Yeah. So we can. That's not something that we have run. We've let students work it out with Jen in the past, but it's a good question for us to kind of get a better answer to. Sarah, do you know?
I was just going to ask, so for the Embree program in Murdoch, the stipend that you get is to pay you. It does not include housing. But for a lot of the REUs, you have to look at their particular requirements and what they provide you, because some of them do provide housing, and but we do not.
We don't. Yeah, and so it's especially like we had one of my students got a great internship at doing the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, but it was in Berkeley, and she was looking for a, like honest. So factor in the cost of housing when you kind of do your cost benefit analysis for accepting offers. Yeah, Bay Area. She found something. It was, yeah, basically. Other questions? Then I will use the 15 minutes just spouting random advice, and these guys can jump in. If you don't know where the CEL is on campus, you should take advantage of that for your application material. I think that one of the biggest mistakes people do is put together your essays and stuff for these things like the night before. Or short without getting input from a research mentor. Do yourself a favor and get input on your application material. Yeah, Adam.
Oh, sorry, what's the CEL?
Oh, the center, thank you. It's the Center for Experiential Learning. It is in Hendren Hall in the back, Jennifer Riddle, and I don't know if how they are setting up appointments. Who is the other person in there with Jen right now, with Jennifer?
Courtney Kelly.
Thank you, Courtney Kelly, the new Kelsey Nelson. Courtney Kelly, and they can do things like help you put together your resume, help you develop like personal essay statements if you're writing, because the essay you would write for a job application at Clearwater, like in tech, versus a summer internship versus a MCAT, like a medical school application, those are going to be 3 very different essays. And so they help you kind of write to your audience appropriately, which is not a skill that we're just born with. Like, you have to get help on it. Anna?
With regards to students thinking about applying here or elsewhere, do the faculty here prefer or request that students who are seriously considering applying to work with them, like after you've chatted and all that, do you guys all ask for resumes?
I do, as part of my application process.
Because I do.
Yeah.
Right? Part of it is just, it gives me some context. So if you don't already have a resume, which my first year of college, I also did not have a resume, so that is not a problem. But then you do need to go to the CEL and get free professional help putting one together. They have templates, they have examples, they give you feedback. And that helps us get to know you quickly. And then when we talk, we can ask about like, oh, I see you, you know, lifeguarded for 2 summers. So we know you're good at bossing people around and keeping a sharp eye out, following rules, and staying on a schedule. Maybe that doesn't show what I know about. And you can swim. Yeah, that's good. It's important for me. It's very important for business work.
So,
Yeah, that's a problem. Don't put your mortality rate on there. But I just wanted to put that out there because sometimes people don't know that that might be an important tool, and that'll be super helpful for you later. Even if you never work with any of us, you'll need it after you graduate. So pitch for that.
And then
I was going to ask, can the letters of recommendation come from faculty outside of Wood?
Yes. It depends. It depends on the application. Was that it? So this read the instructions, and so this is just applications for anything. Oftentimes there will be like, we want a natural science at least one of the applications to be from somebody in this field. But for people who have applied to work with me, and in Dr. Dull's application, it says 2 faculty references, one of them in the math and sciences, and the other one could be anyone. So it depends on who's doing the applications, but for me, you can have 1 from outside. And then for Embree, does it matter? What's the Embree restriction on letters?
I don't know if they have a.
Have you guys?
I don't think they have a. It can be. It has to be a faculty member, but I think it can be outside of the science.
To that end, if I asked you today for 2 faculty references, would you be able to think of 2 faculty members who know you well enough to say good things about you? Because if you can't say yes to that, that's something you should be working on like right now. Just in terms of getting jobs, like getting to know faculty and making good impressions on faculty that can talk, not just your grade, like that, people don't care about your grade in a letter of reference. They want to know, like, did you show up? Did you do the things you were supposed to do? Did you step up gladly? Were you a joy to work with? So if you're not building those relationships with faculty members now, that's something that like you should be working on that, both in the science classes for this sort of thing, but across the board. So to that point there. Thank you for bringing up references. Yeah, I get recommendation requests from students that I've had in like 1 semester that I barely know, and I'm like, oh, you didn't think that one through. I'm like, well, they took my class.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that. So thinking down the line, when you're applying to medical school and beyond, you should remember that your letter writers write a lot of letters. And so if you want a really great letter, which you do, you should provide your letter writers some prompting information that would help them write a good letter for you. So, you know, these are the classes that I had you in, or these are the things that I was involved in while I was on campus. So that you help them write a letter for you. Just don't be like, hey, can you write a letter for me, and that's it. So for example, for medical school letters, I always ask for an updated resume and a copy of your personal statement, even if it's in a draft form. At least it gives me a sense of why you're choosing this particular profession. And if it's a student that I haven't had in a long time, I may say, you know, can you also provide me this, that, and the other thing so that I can write the best letter for you. You want to help your letter writers write glowing letters.
And non-generic letters,
And
like things that speak
non-generic.
specifically to like this project that Micah did over the summer was amazing, and here's why, and she taught me how to code, and like the more details, the stronger the letter. You know, they take a lot of work to write on our end. A good letter is about a page long or more. And if all you did was take my class and like maybe get an A, that's a paragraph. That's not a letter that's going to stand out. That's not a letter that's going to get you a job. And so giving faculty members more to write about is. So, Adam, you had a question?
Yeah, I think this was addressed already, but should we be applying for research opportunities that fit within like our major?
If you want to. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if you know, this is the chance in your life to really explore for some of these opportunities that'll pay you to do it. Like I take advantage. So if you're curious about atmospheric science, but you have no intention of doing that for your major because we don't offer it here, Like if your coursework is relevant, that's where like looking at the like a good candidate will have X, Y, and Z, and if you meet their criteria and it's something you're curious about, do it.
Okay.
And I think like Sarah brought up the opportunity in bio for like a physics RU that had bio overlap, and so those RUs especially are a great opportunity to get some of these niche research experiences, or go to the South Pole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay. We've got about 5 minutes left, so we'll wrap up now, and I guess the faculty will just hang out till while you guys eat pizza, because that's what you will do is go and eat pizza. Yeah, one last one. Oh.
It's not a question, I just want to say thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, you're hired. All right. So grab some pizza, come back and ask us questions, and then come talk to us. We want good student employees. We got money.